Hello, good morning, or good evening, or the middle of the night, I just heard in Los Angeles. Wow. It's lovely to be back. I feel a little bit greedy. I was here once this week already, as Gwyneth mentioned. And firstly, I do want to thank Gwyneth and Sheldon again for hosting this unbelievable conference. And I haven't privileged it yet in real life, as you'll hear in a minute. So for me, I have nothing to compare with, and it's really very exciting, and especially being able to catch up and hear the people that I couldn't hear in real time. And I probably need about another week to get through everything that I want to hear. Okay, so the subject today is actually, well, it's EFT and it's TTT. So for people who don't know what either of those are, and I'm guessing that a lot of you on here, everybody seems to be very knowledgeable in lots of different alternative therapies and ideas and things, but if it's okay, I'm going to not assume too much, because I did learn that word assume actually meant don't make an ass out of you and me, ASSUME. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, which was started by Gary Craig, and TTT is actually tapping through trauma, and it's a form of EFT. The main difference being that we don't use words. Now, words can be wonderful, fantastic, but they can also be a blockage. They can get in the way. Just think about music. You can listen to music with words, a song, and you can really identify with the song and the words, and you can love it. Or you can listen to just a piece of classical music, and that might take you to a much higher place. So what I'm saying is there's different times, different places, different things which are more suitable for different people. So just a little bit about myself. I was born in London, 1958. And I lived in England until a year ago. The last 32 years were in Manchester. And when I was born, there was no such known thing or well thought of thing as any counseling or therapy or anything. It's what the Americans did. I think the most therapy that we had was people would hang out their washing and they would speak to their neighbors over the washing line, and they would be chatting, which probably is a really useful form of therapy if we think about it. But there wasn't anything that we have today. And as I say, it was just very, very much belittled. So I actually didn't come into this world until about 2010. I'd always been quite alternative, and I'd been looking into innate health. And by the way, any questions on that, if you put them in the chat, I'm very, very happy to answer anything afterwards. I don't want to blind people with science with different things. On the other hand, I don't want to go into every little subject before we get on with the presentation, which I think is probably what you like. We could talk about EFT all day, but I'd like you to experience it, especially people who haven't experienced it, and especially TTT. So yeah, 1979, I got married, and soon after became a full-time mother and wife, and a rebbetzin, which is a rabbi's wife, which takes on itself, or in those days took on, means that you take on a whole community as well as your family. So I didn't have a great deal of time, but I was very busy listening to people, trying to help people, and not having major tools to do it other than the ones that I built up on the way. So in 2010, I thought this is time to do something about this, and I was looking into all sorts of different things, and it was a new journey, discovery for me, very exciting. So some of you may have heard of Pearl Lopian. She was nagging me about EFT, and I said, it sounds crazy. What do you want me to go to somewhere where people are tapping on themselves? And in the end, I gave in just out of curiosity. I wasn't going to be a practitioner. I wasn't going to go past the level 1 training, but I went to a place in England called Yorkshire, and I learned with Gwyneth Moss, more about her later. she's allowed me to share this slideshow with you. She's so modest. She said, you can take my name off, but I think it's really important to give her due. She taught me everything I know and still does about tapping. So after tapping, I did some NLP and some hypnotherapy, and lots of Tony Robbins work, and a whole world which sat very well with me, very comfortably. And more recently, the TTT is something which some people called Gunilla and Alf, they're Swedish. I don't know if anyone's heard of them. They actually introduced this, and that's because they were doing trauma work in the most awful situations, horrendous things in countries where wars still are going on, whether it's been Syria, whether they were in Rwanda. They've witnessed the most awful things. And what they decided was, you're going to these countries, they were going to help, but they couldn't speak the same language. They didn't know these languages, but yet they were desperate to help people. So that's how TTT came about. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about what it is. Traffic light tapping. So Gwyneth called it traffic light tapping because she said that what we should do is have a red light where everybody knows you don't go through a red light. You have an amber light, we know what that is, and we have the green light. Now in the green light, that means that your life is going absolutely fine the way you want it to. I don't know how many hours of the day that could be, because as we know, our mood, our rhythm, our energy changes, but things can be going fine. And then something a little bit irritating could get to you. You could be irritated, and that's the amber, and that's the time to begin tapping. And when the red is on and someone's infuriating you, or you're infuriating yourself, or whatever else has happened, that's the time when we really need to tap. So we use tapping for first aid, we use it for self-help and stress. It's quick, it's simple. You don't have to go to people for hundreds of sessions. And obviously, the thing about washing your hands is, particularly today, but we know to wash our hands. The reason why it's on the slide is because we're going to be touching our hands a lot. Our faces a lot with our hands. Okay, stress, enough people have spoken about the last few days. I don't really want to go in. We all know that stress affects us differently. Some people will feel it in their shoulders, in their neck, in their back. It's important that obviously we get to know what our own stress signs are, and we keep an eye on them. But the most important thing, we're all different. And then here come the traffic lights. So the reason why we measure them is because we want to feel for us how effective the tapping is actually going to be. So in a short while, I'm going to ask you to think of something which could be stressing you out or has stressed you out. Although having listened to Sandra and being beautifully calm, I'm really, I don't want to, in a way, don't want to spoil that beautiful feeling of serenity. But for the purposes of this, I will ask you to think of something in a little bit. And then when you've got something, we're going to tap on various different places. Now, I'm going to show you them now. You don't need to actually remember them because I'm going to be doing it with you. So all you have to do is follow me. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with tapping, this is the first one. You take a hand, it doesn't matter, right or left, whichever is your dominant, and you tap it on the side of your other hand. Not too hard, but not too soft. You want to make some sort of contact. You want to feel it. Okay. And then you take two fingers, and you can do this on one side or two sides of your face, and you tap the inner eyebrow where the hair begins to grow. So you could be doing it like this, or you could be doing it like this. Now, regular EFT, for those of you who have done it, would probably be just 5 or 6 times. But the TTT, it's considerably more. I'm not telling you the number. I don't want you to count. I just want you to experience, and I'll be doing it with you. And then the next point is the outer eyebrow where the hair stops growing. I'm sorry, I can't see you all, but I hope you're doing it with me. And if you're not, and you don't understand anything, I hope there's a way to oscillator, and then we go down to the cheekbone. So it's all very sequential. It's not rocket science to actually remember it when you do it on your own, because it follows a pattern. And then the next one is under the nose. Okay. And the next one is on the chin. And the next one, I deliberately want to address where you can just see under the collarbone, because this one is just, it's like a Tarzan thing. You're just tapping under the collarbone. Okay. And the next one, it's not so dignified. It's around the back. If you're a lady, it's where your bra strap is. And that's one, we kind of call that, we're giving ourselves a hug and a pat on the back. Okay, that's the final one. And then we come back to this one. And then after that, we do some breathing. So those are the points that we're going to be using. Now, there are some people and practitioners that use the one on the head. I don't particularly like tapping on the head. If you do, you can have that, it's fine. Although for the trauma work, I wouldn't think that anybody would really be wanting to use that one. Okay, so we do that a couple of times, and then we're going to breathe, and we're going to assess whether we've changed from the red light, whether it's changed to the amber. If it hasn't, then we just do it again. And if it has changed to amber, we do it again, and we do it until we get to the green, so that the pressure, the tension, whatever it is gone. Okay. There are other hand points, which I will teach you later if there's time. And there is a suggestion for people who hate tapping on their faces. So some people might have a challenge with that. You can tap on a teddy instead. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's probably, Gwyneth says, because of the mirror neurons that actually make it work. Now, what I do know is that it definitely works when I'm working with clients. We use teddies, we talk to the teddies, we do work talking to the teddy as if the teddy was somebody's parent or abuser or anything else. So as daft as it sounds, you can tap on a teddy if you don't want to tap on yourself. Okay, and then we'll talk about later whether you would make it a daily habit. You've got to enjoy doing it first. So I'd like to say, are there any questions before we start? But I don't have that possibility. So what we're going to do is just start with actually the experience, as I said. So what I'd like you to do, normally I would do also some sort of grounding, but there's no need. I think everyone here is pretty grounded right now. I'd like you to think of something stressful. I don't suggest you choose something like an earthquake stressful. I suggest it's something more on an 8 level. And because I can't see you, I'm going to give you a little more time. Just think of the stressful situation. And just try and decide whether it's a red traffic light or an amber traffic light. Okay. And then if everybody's got something, we're going to start. So we're taking the dominant hand, tapping it on the other. And I'm going to try not to speak too much. So just follow me and just tap as I'm tapping. And you can think about the stressful situation, or you don't have to, because you're anyway tuned into it. We're all tuned into it. So just tap along with me. Take the judgment out of it. Take expectations out, and let's just see what happens. Great. Now just take 3 big, deep breaths in, just big in and out. And again, whenever you're ready. And again. Okay, great. So thank you for doing that in a very difficult situation where I actually can't see anyone. And just ask yourself, don't be scientific, don't just be gentle and guess. Has the stress, whatever the thing was that you were tapping for, has it stayed the same? Has it moved at all down? Or has it gone up? There's, you know, there's sometimes things get worse before they get better. Either way, we don't worry, we don't panic. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to assume that, the word that I said I wouldn't use, that most of you have gone down a little bit or have had some sort of reaction, and a beneficial one. And so we're just going to tap again, absolutely with no words. We're just going to go around those same points again. And if something came to mind, which probably did, which is just a different aspect of the problem, it could be that one part of the problem or challenge, as I call them, cleared, but there's something else, then that's totally fine and normal, and that's what happens. And it might have changed from anger could change to fear, fear could change to sadness. We know emotions change. So whatever it's changed to, if it's something that you'd like to shift, then keep tapping. Remembering to tap hard enough to make some feeling, but not too hard that you're hurting yourself. Okay, and again, 3 big breaths in and out. Great, thank you. And I just invite you now to have a look, or whatever you were tapping for, As I said, the beauty of it, there's no words. I don't need to know anything about what's going on for you, what you were tapping about. When you work in the same room as somebody, you've got that energetic field between you, so that some practitioners actually tap on the client. I prefer not to, because I think, especially this point, I don't think this is very comfortable for somebody to be doing to another person. Obviously I have done. It's the beauty of this is you again can do it on yourself. So before I just open up and try and get a little bit of feedback, I'd like you to just think about your traffic light. If it's on green and you've cleared something, then I'd like you to tap along with us anyway, just for the other people in the room. It's sending out that energy, that vibe, which is making us all as a community, which is really, really important. And if you've still got others, your own stuff is still coming up, or more elements are coming up, then we'll be tapping for you at the same time. Okay, last round, last of 2 rounds. Inside the eyebrow, in case anybody missed or can't see. Outside of the eyebrow, on that bone. Cheekbone. Under the nose. On the chin. On the collarbone. Well done, you. Pat on the back and a hug. Go back to here. Okay, and we're going to end with 3 big, deep breaths in and out. Great. So thank you very much for joining in, those that did. And I hope even if you didn't, that you still get some energy from that. Important to mention here that if you find that you burp or make any other noises, or sigh or yawn, either during the tapping or after, that's all great. It's not a bad thing, it's great. And I must encourage everybody to drink lots of water, not just people in Israel because it's very, very hot, but we're actually moving energy. And I think you've probably spoken about that a lot during the week, so I won't speak too much about it, but for someone who's completely new to tapping, we're tapping on various meridian points, and these meridian points in our bodies get stuck. Things get stuck from a very early age. And when we haven't cleared them out, somebody could just look at us the wrong way and we could feel ourselves overreacting. Certain things are triggered subconsciously without us even realizing. Once we start tapping on meridians and clearing all this stuff, we are going to become lighter, feel lighter, and actually be lighter. I think Gwyneth gives a great metaphor of the sky. The sky is always blue. It's always blue. Now, you wouldn't think that if you lived where I lived in Manchester, because it's always grey. But what is the grey? They're simply clouds, rain clouds, any clouds. And when we're born, all of us have a blue sky. And as we go through life, there's various clouds that come there, and they're brought from a very early age, all sorts of different sources. And our view of life and our sky gets a little bit cloudy. But then using EFT, you can disperse a cloud, even one cloud at a time, and your sky becomes more blue and how it's actually supposed to be, how life is supposed to be for us. So I hope you find that a useful metaphor as to why. Yes, it feels daft, it looks daft, but if it was daft, people wouldn't be doing it now. They're doing it more than ever. Yes, it's been ignored and it's had a bad press, but that's changing. Science is finally catching up, and there's some scientific studies and things. So that's useful. But millions of people around the world have learned it and are using it either for self-help or with somebody. So I would like to, before I carry on, just see if there's anything that anybody wanted to ask. Let me have a look here, because I could talk forever. I wouldn't really want that. Oh, okay. Thanks, Johanna. Sandra and Gabriel. Great, lovely. Okay, so some of you clearly have felt that energy, which is great. Did anybody feel that whatever they were tapping on went down or didn't go down or went up or anything else? Any other observations? It's a good question. Do you alternate hands? You don't have to. One of the beautiful things about this, Nechama, is that you can do either hand. You can do whatever you want. Most people are comfortable tapping on with their dominant hand. But if we get onto finger tapping in a moment, then I'll show you how you use both fingers on both hands. Okay. Oh, yours went down, Johanna. That's great. Thank you. Me, it went down the first time, and then it went. Oh, fantastic. Thank you. That's always good to know. Okay, so clearly it's a very simple way of de-stressing. Don't get me wrong, there is a time when we do need words. When I'm working with some people and we've done the TTT and they're more comfortable and they want to talk about stuff that's happened, there's always a part in EFT where the final part, where we're using a little bit of NLP and reframing. So for the reframing side, when we get to that, then words are useful. But there's no point reframing it and just putting a plaster on until we've actually cleaned out the wound. So with the tapping, what we're doing is we're cleaning out the stuff. And then when it's clean and clear, then we can use words to reframe. Do you mainly use it for triggers? Is it similar to EMDR? Well, I haven't learned EMDR, but I do believe that it's similar. No, don't use it mainly for triggers. I use it for anything. People come for all sorts of things, from, as I said, God forbid, sexual abuse, to mother-in-law problems, to now this is interesting because as Gwyneth mentioned the other day, I was on doing relationship therapy, Imago Relationship Therapy. And when I started doing that, and I explained to my teacher, Gwyneth, she said to me, "Oh yes, that's great. You can use EFT in sessions." And I thought, there's no way I'm mixing two modalities which are so different. One is talking and teaching people how to communicate, and the other's tapping. And interestingly, it wasn't very long before I did have to use it in sessions where people's anger got out of control, and perhaps a normal therapist would just say, go home, and when you can behave like two mature adults, we'll carry on, because most therapists, couples won't see people when they're screaming at each other. Whereas I've been able to help people reduce their levels. So I've used it in combining it even in couples therapy. Anyway, sorry. Yes, I think it probably is similar to EMDR, but I don't know enough about it. I was going to learn EMDR, and then somebody said to me, "Well, you have to learn with a psychiatrist. You have to," and it sort of scared me. I thought, but I'm not sure that's true. I think whatever. Can we do the sequence at any time? Absolutely, yes. You can do it in the sequence at any time in any situation. What I'm going to teach you now, though, is something that you can use if you don't want people to think you're absolutely nuts. You wouldn't really sit on a bus or on a train and go around like this, or maybe you would after, I don't know, after Corona, people doing anything, aren't they? But what I'm going to teach you now, I've taught many people who, I deal a lot with bereavement as well. And for people who ever go to a synagogue, and which is probably not so much in Israel, I don't think, well, I've only been here a year, but people tend to have their seat and they're very familiar with their surroundings. And after they've lost somebody, a loved one, who, it could have been their father who was sitting downstairs in their eye view, people find it very, very hard to actually sit in a place with this person who's passed away. So I've taught many people this one for that situation, but this is for literally anything. So you take the index finger and the thumb on whichever hand you want. We're going to use both hands, and you squeeze the side of the nail on the opposite hand. I'll just do that again. You can do it with me if you like. And you're squeezing it so you actually do feel something hard. And then you swap to the other hand and you squeeze the nail with the thumb and the index finger. Now, it's probably not as effective as what we've been doing here, but it is effective and it does work and it calms people down. I've told people to use this when they've gone for job interviews, or lots of people hate public speaking. It's a great thing. You can do it under the table, nobody can see you. It's just a great little tool. It's also a great tool if you don't want to tap on your face. Seriously, if you haven't washed your hands and you are on, I don't know, some public transport or something, and you don't want to start going near your face. So even then, if you haven't got the alcohol gel with you or whatever else, you can just start doing finger tapping. Great. I've seen people tapping on underground in Europe. I even joined. Oh, good. Great. Okay. That's good to know. It's definitely taking off. What can I tell you? I understand why people would be skeptical, but for me it works. I think I'll end At what pace should we squeeze? Again, it's very a personal thing. I think about this is right. Yeah. Slow enough so that you're gripping the side of the finger and you're squeezing it and you're moving on. The beautiful thing about this tapping, whatever anyone tells you, there isn't such a right or wrong that you could go wrong. You're not going to disturb your balance, your yin or yang or anything by squeezing a little bit too much or not enough. Yeah. Okay. So I hope that's answered the questions. I'd like to, if I may, am I okay? Can I, a couple of minutes or not?
Yeah.
I'll just explain how I knew that this worked. As I mentioned to you earlier, I grew up without before the therapy world. And when I was training with Gwyneth, she put us in groups and she wanted us to do, in the earlier training, she wanted us to come up with something that we wanted to tap on. And our particular group didn't have what she was looking for. She didn't want a biggie. She didn't want death or, rape or anything like that. She wanted like a normal thing. And we, between us, couldn't come up with anything. So I was a spokesman of the group. I said, I'm sorry, we haven't got anything. I've only got in my life, personally life, I've only got a biggie, but that happened already over 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And I'm done, I'm clear. She said, what was it? I said, my mother passed away with no warning. I came home, she wasn't there. She said, get in the chair. So I thought, what is this about? I was then a 50-year-old woman, a very stoic one, and a religious one, believing in God and knowing that everything comes for a reason, and didn't have any problems with that through the years, obviously. Anyway, she had me in the chair and she started tapping on me, and she brought back memories of the day that it happened, things which I hadn't spoken about because, as I said, in the 60s, you didn't speak, you did a Sarah Bernhardt, that my late father called it. You just got on with it, you acted, and then you got through life. And as she was doing this tapping with me and asking me questions, I had involuntary tears, warm tears going down the side of my face. And it was the most beautiful, cathartic, wonderful experience, maybe that I've emotionally experienced. And she joined me with my mother, and I'm swallowing as I'm saying now, and it just brought this beautiful closeness and love, and something which I'd pushed away thinking, well, I haven't got it now, so I'll deal with what I have got, I'll be happy with what I have got. And it was the most amazing thing. So that's my own very personal reasons for, I guess, believing in EFT and then going on to become an advanced practitioner, really because of my own results. Okay. Thank you very much. If there's any other questions or anyone wants to contact me, I think you have my details.
Yes, I do. That was lovely. Thank you so much. And I have recorded it, and all's well. Thank you again so very much.